Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond Recovery. Today, my guest is Dr. Vince Aliberti, Ph.D. Vince is an author, business strategist, and mental health advocate. And always giving back to the community, he is currently the executive director of the Red Deer Dream Center, whose mission is to help people find purpose living in recovery from addictions to drugs and alcohol. Dr. Vince, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Great. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on. Been looking forward to doing this. I've been following, the Red Deer Dream Center, specifically on Instagram, just over the summer. It looks like you guys have been having some just wonderful events, for basically funding this thing. So I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to come on and really champion what you're doing. I know there's a big date coming up that weekend of October 15th to 17th. The grand opening as far as being able to accept folks coming in and such. So I just really wanted to thank you for coming on and just give you an opportunity, to talk about, what is Red Deer Dream Center? What's it all about? And we'll start with that.
No, thank you very much, Matt. The Red Deer Dream Center, we're a faith-based organization that's really about helping people recover from substance abuse, helping them become free from substance abuse. I've had my share of issues with substance abuse, and thank God I'm healed, but I'm a work in progress. I believe in progressive wellness more than anything else. As far as the Red Deer Dream Center, we plan on opening October 17th. Plan on admitting clients, and we're quite excited about that. In order for that to happen, of course, we're a nonprofit organization. We're looking to raise $200,000 by that weekend, let's say the 15th of October, to make that October 17th date a true reality. We have people that we want to hire, offer letters to. We have everything from an operational perspective, is from a management perspective, licensing, everything is up to snuff, so to speak. And we're quite excited. Again, I'm grateful that you gave me an opportunity to talk a little bit about the Dream Center, but it's an organization that is really community driven. And I really, now that you mentioned the Red Deer Dream Center, we don't have clinicians in-house. We're a community driven model. So whether it's psychologists, psychiatrists, addictions counselors, and so forth, we partner with organizations, whether it's Safe Harbor here in Red Deer, a detox center, whether it's AHS and their clinics, their hospitals, whether it's another addictions clinic, BCN Network, Canadian Mental Health Association, other organizations like the Mustard Seed and so forth, to really take that community, various churches, the spiritual element, I believe, is extremely important. Just partnering with all these agencies to provide a community-oriented approach to each client's recovery, because each client, it's their individual journey. And we want to make sure that we provide the resources to them so that they're able to recover in a very meaningful way.
Yeah, fantastic. I love how you specify, very much community driven model, like partnering with everybody in the
Yeah.
community. This is an international podcast, but anybody that listens knows that I'm up in Edmonton, Canada. So anybody that's listening is kind of, okay, well, where is Red Deer exactly? Just a neighbor to the south. You're about, I say, an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. When I'm driving, probably about an hour and a half. South of Red Deer. So, and the community is in around. I want to say, is it the city's about 80,000 people? Is that for Red Deer?
You know something? I thought it was around 80,000, but it's about 100,000 now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Guess getting up there, eh? So yeah, definitely. It's kind of wedged in between. Calgary is about another hour and a half, almost like a halfway point. So anybody that's
exactly.
kind of wondering where Red Deer is and all that. And yeah, just I was watching some of the videos that you had on the website specifically, and a gentleman named Wes, who's one of the founders, I believe, was talking about how you guys got some inspiration for the Red Deer house that you have here from specifically from somewhere in LA. Like, what can you tell about the origins, or like the idea, like the genesis of this center?
That's actually, well, what happened was that two of the founders and maybe a third person, I believe, went to the LA Dream Center. Now, it's not a recovery center. It's much larger. It's more about housing and just providing basic needs services, but it's not around recovery. From there, what happened was that Wes and I believe it was Seth Shaw, the founder, went to the Calgary Dream Center to ask around. We're not affiliated with the Calgary Dream Center, but just to ask around, right? And they're more recovery, and they also have housing as well. So through gathering information from all the different, from the LA Dream Center, from the Calgary Dream Center, they took it upon themselves, right? They had conversations with various businesses, various nonprofit organizations, whether it's Safe Harbor, Canadian Mental Health Association, various organizations, and they said, this is a need. And to this day, actually even before, but when I came on board, what happened was that when they just come and if you want, volunteer. I know you're working, you're putting your hours and so forth. Maybe if you want to volunteer, hand out coffee and hot chocolate at the shelter there. The first time I did that, I had no idea that you had the OPS site or overdose prevention site, the detox center, and the shelter all in one place. And I saw the spectrum of addiction. You had people that were truly homeless. And I would say, I don't want to put a percentage, but a very high percentage of those individuals were also in addiction, whether that's alcohol, drugs, or alcohol and drugs. So we would give out coffee and hot chocolate. You see these men and women, literally, when you're giving out the hot chocolate and coffee, and Wes and myself and a few other individuals, they would put their hands out and say how grateful they were just to get a cup of coffee with a couple of sugars and a creamer. And it made me realize that life is quite simple. We don't need much. And these people are struggling. A lot of people have a huge misconception. And that's something that I believe that Wes and Seth, the founders, really understood. People struggle. And you don't need, and the thing is, addiction doesn't discriminate. And you know this as well as I do. It doesn't matter if you're worth $500 million or $1 billion, whatever it is, or you don't have any money at all. It doesn't discriminate. And the one thing that I can tell you is that by the Wes and Seth, and then when I came on board in the board of directors, we took an active role to make it more of a community partnership model, because it's through that community that we can best serve and provide that individualized care for each of our clients. But just simply giving a coffee, who would think that you would make such a huge impact in someone's life, right?
I love that. Great story. Great story. I mean, we're talking about individualizing, care for people too.
Yeah.
I'm liking how that, the whole recovery, recovery field, if you will, is gravitating towards that these days. It's not paint with broad strokes. Obviously there is broad strokes, but with each individual, I'm finding that there's like nuances, right? It's dependent on where they are in their life story, traumas they've had before, the way that their drugs are reacting with their personal body and all that. So, like the idea of this individualized is very progressive and refreshing. And yeah, that's great that you mentioned that. So when you're talking about like the partnerships that you have with the community, what is the like the I guess the flow of the house as far as like, are you going to be getting people directly out of like inpatient treatments, or are you providing inpatient? What is the actual like service is that you provide at the Dream Center?
The one thing I want to mention is that it's a 1-year program, first and foremost, right? You may have some individuals that will leave, let's say at the 11-month mark, but it's a 1-year program. And even though I say that, there are certain individuals that they're working their treatment plan, and they may have to stay an extra month or 2 months. We're not going to kick them out. It's just that individualized care that you were touching on, that I'm touching on. As far as the flow of services is concerned, the way it's going to work is that we're going to get, I'm not sure if you heard of the John Howard organization in Canada. There are some people that are incarcerated that are addicts, they're struggling, right? So they have potentially, that's one venue where clients can come through the John Howard Society. Another venue would be through Detox, through Safe Harbor here. and I'm looking at it from a local perspective initially. I mean, yes, it can come from other different parts of the province and so forth, right? Or which is the equivalent of a state in the United States. But you're looking at detox. You're looking at maybe an addictions doctor recommending somebody. You're looking at someone that's in a hospital that's detoxing that can be sent our way. There are multiple points of entry. Simply applying online, right? That's another point of entry. And once they're there, we go through like any other organization, every recovery. There's an application phase. There's a screening phase. We can't help everybody, and we can't help women because it's a men's only facility. But even though we cannot help the women, we'll refer to our partners, to other, like I'll refer to other recovery centers, or refer women to other recovery centers if someone's struggling. So we're not the type of people to just say, hey, you're on your own type of thing. So it doesn't work that way. And I know that there's a center nearby that's also going to be opening. That's going to be solely for women, and I think children as well.
Nice.
Anyways, so there's that screening process, the intake, the screening process, and then there's the stabilization. Stabilization. A lot of people have they don't really have a good grasp of what that implies, right? Because for some person, it could be 6 days to 14 days. You detox, you're good to go. You can come into the program. Others, it may take 2 months, 3 months, depending on the medication you're on, depending on how detox is impacting you, depending on if you need to be on Suboxone, methadone, because we offer medicine to stabilize them. It all depends, again, at an individualized level, depending on where they're at. What happens is, let's a cohort. We're starting off with a cohort of 8 individuals. Once they come into, let's say we have all 8, and hypothetically speaking, all 8 magically are one group, they all stabilize quite well and so forth. They go into our program. It's a Genesis program. It's a Christian faith-based program. And but we will also have, people, we're open to all individuals, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're Taoist, whether you're Islam, we don't discriminate. But we're very open that we're a Christian-based organization, so we'll have Bible studies. But at the same token, we'll also have like NA and AA, Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, or CMA, Crystal Meth Anonymous, Celebrate Recovery. Like all these other organizations that look at things from a different spiritual variety. I'm hoping at having conversations right now to potentially incorporate variety within our organizations, which is the indigenous version of AA, the 12-step program.
Very cool.
So because of that, we want to be as open as possible, but at the same token, we want to be transparent with regards to our the word Christian-based organization. Some people like it, some people don't, and I'm okay with that, right? We're here to serve and help people recover, and after they go through that, let's say, stabilization phase, they go to the actual program, and like I mentioned before, the various 12 steps. What happens is that we don't believe in just, okay, we get rid of the alcohol or drugs. I believe in the way of life. So what do I mean by that? So we're going to be heavily focused on spirituality, because we know that after recovery, if you don't have the spiritual element, the probability of someone relapsing is much greater than someone if they don't have that spirituality, and this is proven in many journals. But in the program, with regard to the Wheel of Life, if someone wants to basically take maybe they want to go to school, maybe they want to finish off their degree, maybe they want to go to trade school, maybe they want some financial literacy, they want to improve their health by joining a gym, maybe they want to connect with their family, so we'll have the family component as well. It's that we focus on the entirety of different elements of someone's life. So when they're actually, and that's about up to 9 months. right? And even up to until the end of the actual program. However, it's really what we're going to be focusing on the first 9 months. Then, depending on the person, from 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th month, what's going to happen is that there's going to be a transitional component. So potentially they could volunteer. If they're doing some educational upgrading, maybe we could help them find a job, right? And so little by little, depending on the individual, given the skills, recovery first and foremost, but we're also going to equip them with skills through our community partners. And as they go into, as they transition, we plan on partnering with transitional housing organizations as well. One in particular comes to mind. Once they transition, they're going to be much better equipped in mainstream society than they would if they just went to a 30-day program. And I have nothing against a 30-day program or 60-day program. The fact of the matter is, people need time to find themselves. People need time. When I say find themselves, connect within themselves to find out who they really are, to remove all the blocks, all the masks, right?
Yes.
Before they can even have a good conversation with someone else, even. And along the way, what happens is that, and I saw this on your website, you connect, you create, and change. We create through various skills that that surround the spiritual element, and then little by little they change. And I look at change. Change is one word, transform is another word I like. It's like from the butterfly is a perfect example, caterpillar to a butterfly, right?
Yes.
So society, mainstream society, that's when the real work begins, right? It's not going to be easy. You may have all the skills in the world, but now it's time to apply it. And we're hoping the last 3 months they'll be able to apply to a certain extent, so the transition won't be as arduous, so to speak, right? Yeah. So it's a 1-year program. For some people, maybe 11 months. For some people, maybe 12, 13 months. However, it's a program that is spiritually based. It's a program that is there to provide individualized skills so that once they transition into society, they're good to go. And our goal is to keep up with them for 2 years, not just 30 days, 60 days, because people can relapse quite easily if they don't have the support.
It's amazing. Thank you for illustrating exactly, what the program looks like. It's just fantastic, and you mentioned, and there's the 30-day thing, which again, nothing wrong with that. I mean, I myself have gone through a 30-day thing that changed my life. Having said that, coming out of that 30-day thing, it's often called, it's like the sauna effect. Yeah, you're in the sauna, but as soon as you get out of the sauna, it's like, okay, what do I do now, right? So that was definitely me. There was a degree of feeling things out again, and I'll tell you, that first year of alcohol-free living for myself was very touch and go, right? So if the fact that you are providing this 1 year and actually providing some opportunity to learn and connect with other folks and other community partners, learn some skills along the way, get into networking, start believing in yourself again, is just, yeah, that's amazing. And again, tip of the cap to you guys. Very progressive ideas that have been, let's face it, long time coming, right? A lot of this stuff is like the whole addiction sobriety genre is just blossoming into this beautiful thing nowadays. And it sounds like you guys are right on the cusp of that, which is amazing to hear. So thanks for sharing that. And yeah, it's I'm picturing you guys, in Red Deer as this big hub of resources, as you mentioned. If it's not for everybody, or there might be something that's okay, it's not quite jiving, I know somebody else that I can refer you to. Like you say, there's not going to be anybody turned away. So there's just this it's a very strong presence that I imagine you guys are going to be having there in Central Alberta that can also help, like you mentioned, if, like a feeder system from other places in the province, maybe even neighboring provinces, which is just amazing. Such a cool thing. So thanks for painting that picture. I want to get a little bit into when you're talking about like the faith-based approach as well, a bit of a 12-step approach. And I do want to hear your story, your personal story as well. But before we do that, you mentioned how important that is. And why do you think that is? And I know you mentioned, okay, there's some in the journals and so forth, but let's unpack that a little bit. Like what is it about faith? I always look at it, it's like body, mind, spirit, and that spirit is like can be overlooked sometimes, right? Why do you think it's just so important, so crucial in recovery?
Do you mind if I share my story and then touch on the spirit as well?
Please do. Yeah, absolutely.
So what happened was that my mother had she was schizophrenic, and I loved her dearly and so forth. But because I won't go into detail, but by the age of 14, my father, typical Italian, you have wine in the basement and so forth. So I started dabbling in it and so forth. But little by little, age of 15, I was an alcoholic and I didn't even know it. Started playing soccer, senior men's soccer at the age of 16, then played semi-pro, and everywhere I went, they gave me everything I wanted, all the booze that I wanted, and I'd hide it well, mask it well. At least I thought I did. No one really knew. None of my friends really knew. Then I ended up getting a soccer scholarship, and there, university. I never thought I had a problem, so I just pounded them down. Beer. I wanted beer, and of course I experimented with drugs in college and so forth. But beer is what I wanted, and I couldn't stop. I pass out, wake up, I go, God, please, I'll never do it again. Just please get this hangover. You know the deal. You hear it all the time. The fact of the matter is, I did it over and over and over and over. Then I did my master's, and I said, same thing, right? The story was recurring over and over. And I'll never forget this. I was sitting down on my buddy's couch. Everyone thought I was hammered. I was like half, quote unquote, blitzed, right? And I really was cognitively, I was really there, and I understood everything. They says, I want you to do your PhD. So the next day I applied, and initially without any funding, then they gave me, total funding for my whole entire doctorate. But even there, I thought it was cool because people would go to this grad bar and drink and everything. I'd worked 16 hours a day with working on I was like a hard, like a functional alcoholic, hardcore, right? Didn't think anything of it. And then what happened was that after my doctorate, I ended up getting a little job for 3 months in Michigan. Then I moved to Atlanta for a while, and almost lost my job in Atlanta because of my drinking. I'll never forget this. I had to plead with my boss. He knew I had a problem, but he was based out of Chicago, but he let me keep my job. But because we went through a merger, what happened was that I found a job in Chicago. I was there for 4 or 5 years, and everything was going great, but I couldn't stop the drinking, man. And I was sitting next to these guys at this bar, Chicago, big city and so forth. And back then I was making like 90,000 plus $2,000 bonus, right? That was phenomenal money back then, right, for me. And next to me is a guy making an equity analyst making $250,000 a year, a lawyer, roughly the same age as myself, like 30, 31, 32, making 300 grand a year, and a trader. He worked for a massive investment bank, making $1 million a year. He had a wad of cash, and he'd buy me beers all the time. I mean, for him, it was nothing. And once in a while, I'd go and do the drugs with them, but not much, right? It was more into the beer, you know. One day, December 13, 2003, because I used to live in Wheaton, Illinois, which is about 45 minutes west of Chicago. I used to work downtown Chicago. And just something hit me. I mean, I got off the train. I missed my first train stop, got off the train. And I'll never forget this. I fell face first into the snow, split my lip, kept on walking. And I went to this park, Adams Park. This is where the spirituality element comes in. I was sitting down on this park bench, and I don't know what came over me. And all I know is that I just I went on my knees. And I don't know if I raised my hands or not. I really can't remember. What I do remember is I said, God, please help me. I'm either going to live or I'm going to die today. And for someone like me to say that, it was going to be that day. Because in Chicago, the reason why I said that is there are people, you have these big trains take you from Wheaton, from all over the parts of the Chicago metropolitan area to downtown Chicago, right? I used to take these trains to work. take a train to work, and there's a yellow line, either yellow or white, I can't remember now. People would say, such and such, someone passed away because they either threw themselves in front of the train, or you'd hear stuff like that. The first time I heard about it, I was like, wow, I'm shocked. And the reason why my spiritual experience that day, December 13, 2003, is so important is because for 2 years, I thought about it, jumping in front of the train. There were times I was so hammered, what I would do is I'd walk on the train tracks, hoping that the train would come and just take me out. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, I was so drunk, I didn't know that the train didn't run whenever I did that. I was so lucky. This happened for I must have done this 20, 25 times, walk on the train tracks hoping to get hit. My wife didn't know what was going on. I had a 2-year-old at the time, but I ended up walking home, 1131 North President Street, Wheaton, Illinois. And I said, that's it. But I think what you said was really powerful. It's like going into a sauna once you come out, right? I said, it's enough, I'm free. And then that's when all the work began. For 2 years, I had constant sweats. For me to think clearly, for someone else, it could be a month and they're good to go. For me, for 2 years, I had a really hard time to focus. I didn't know anything about meditation. I didn't know anything. And by the way, people are called friends of Bill. I visited these meetings. I went there. I said, you guys are losers. I'm not like you. I was exactly like them. Exactly. I had a problem. I just didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to surrender. I was aware that I had a problem. I just didn't want to surrender. Who wants to surrender?
Right.
And from there, what happened was that kept on getting all these corporate jobs. Yeah, Ph.D, written books, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is, worked, leadership positions and so forth. It wasn't for me. And then there was something happened with my daughter. I won't go into it, which impacted different jobs that I ended up taking. And even though I was raised Catholic, I didn't really know. I didn't practice God. I didn't know. I knew, but I didn't know. And then a few years ago, I started reading the Bible. I started reading all these different scriptures, not only from the Bible, from all Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, all these different, just because I just wanted to figure things out for myself. And what happened was that I just saw in a job ad, I think it was Indeed.com. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned the organization, but job ad.
Yeah.
And it was for the Red Deer Dream Center, and it says some things in there that were based. I won't go into detail. And I said, this is it for me, man. I don't need the money. I don't need it. I mean, everyone needs money. I still got to pay bills and everything, but I'm not. My life, given my journey, my hardships, the great, wonderful things that I've had in my life as well, it's about meaning. It's about serving others. I said, this is an opportunity to utilize my corporate experience, to utilize my journey in recovery to make a difference, not only just for myself, my ego. It's the community. It's the way I look at it. I'm one individual, but let's see how many people I can impact and make a difference. Not just individuals in the center, of course. You want them to recover, but communities at large. Right? Let's create a movement. So and because of that spirituality, and even to this day, I have a few tattoos. And one of them is "Thy will be done." Oh yeah, that will be done. Another one, believe it or not, have you ever heard of Russell Brand?
Yes. Yep.
So Russell Brand, he had this tattoo. I'm like, what is that? I couldn't see it. Right now, as I'm getting older, I wear glasses. So I looked at it and it said, "Lord, make me a channel of your peace." I'm like, wow, I want that one. So I got that one as well. And the Serenity Prayer, just through words, serenity, courage, and wisdom. I'm nothing without God, the way I interpret God, the way I'm nothing. And I know that other individuals may call it a presence, or they may call it consciousness, or they may call it the universe, or as the Stoics, they didn't necessarily believe in God, but more about nature.
Mm.
Some may call it creator, and I understand that. But I know who my God is, and it's worked for me, right? And there's that individualized journey. I'm not here to say I'm right and you're wrong. It's more about the impact spirituality can have on someone's life, especially in recovery. It makes me see things. It made me see things in a different light, because life's not about me. It's about others.
Yeah.
And it's about helping others achieve their personal greatness, whatever that may be. Yeah. So spirituality is fundamental to my being. Without it, the very first thing I say in the morning, Matt, is I'm grateful. Why are you grateful, Vince?
Mm.
I'm grateful because today I have an opportunity to connect with my God 24 hours a day,
Oof.
to
That's,
be so that I could be at peace.
yes.
Yeah. So thank you for asking me that wonderful question. It's I'm very grateful that I'm leading the Red Deer Dream Center.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for God, my spirituality, I'm nothing.
That's
I'm just in His will.
that's powerful stuff. Thank you so much for being so honest and open. And that's, you know, that's what I really love about working with and collaborating with people that are, you know, in various stages of recovery or helping other folks. For me, it's just like, as soon as I got you talk about friends of Bill, you know, the first time that I got into a group or a recovery group, a meeting, it was the first time I felt my need for a persona or my ego would just it just dissolved within minutes of going in there, and I realized I was at a safe spot. For me, authenticity is based on a feeling of safety, right, which was immediately established because I'm in the energy of the room was just that I'm in a safe spot. I'm with like-minded people. I can be myself. I can say the most, you know, the thing that created the most shame for me, I can, like, I kind of whisper it out, and somebody will be there to be like, don't worry about that. I've done that 100 times over, and you laugh about it, right? So it's the darkest stuff that you're dealing with, but then there's some laughter and there's some levity that's created. So, you know, I just love, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's an amazing story, and I can really see why you wanted to incorporate your story with the spirituality, because it is such a huge part of that. I'm just curious too, because I see some parallels for, you know, my life experience to where I'm going with it, as far as you know, the ego based need for external validation and such, and now I'm shifting out of that into this like world of service and such. And it definitely does have a lot to do with a shifting out of being self-centered or ego-driven, and just trying to be authentic and being that of like a more spiritual sense, or faith-based, or, you know, the God universe, how, like you say, as however you want to articulate it. So I'm just imagining, like, I'm hearing your story. That was a big shift for you, right? Your ego is much different. Your relationship with your ego nowadays versus, say, 10, 15 years ago, or I guess coming up on, it'll be 20 years next year. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is amazing. Congratulations. What is your relationship with your ego these days? Yeah, I'm just interested to see how that comes up in your life.
That that is a doozy of a question. Doozy, because when I was drinking, I never thought I had an ego, but it was all ego based.
Mm,
Me, 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 me. How come I didn't get the promotion? How come? Why am I not? Why am I sitting in this office, not that office? How come? Just small little things. The problem is that I was sick in the head. Maybe sick in the head. From a mental health perspective, I was not all there because of all the drinking and so forth. And ego needs validation, right? You want the promotion, you have to do certain things. And again, I think it was in your website where you said connect, create, and change. I like to say change, transform. The fact of the matter is that we always have a choice every second of every day. I tend to, when I get excited, like I'm excited right now, I tend to speak quicker. What I had to do, I had to learn to speak slower. And by speaking slower, what happened was that, and I did that through that conscious breathing, walking
Mm.
meditation. I do that throughout the whole entire day. So I have that conscious contact with God. What happens then is that things will come in my head. Vince should be doing this. Vince should be doing this. Vince should be doing this. Some things that are ego based where you need validation, this and that. I know when it comes to something like that, it's the wrong thing to do, but it's always there, right? So it's the humility, maybe weakness, is the greatest strength. Being vulnerable. So then ultimately you could have the courage from a place of vulnerability.
Mm.
You have to be humble, right? You have to surrender. So that you mentioned authenticity. Be authentic with yourself. Be authentic in everything you do. Remove the mask. What other people say is none of my business. That's what I like to say.
Mm.
But how did I do that? I really had to. I started exercising, slow myself down. I started doing yoga. I started to meditate. I started to read the Bible. I started to be conscious every time I had a conversation with someone, try to be present. It took a time. I had to reprogram myself. And then, even now, and I'm not sure some of the listeners will know about this, some won't, but it's really about being the witness. Just observe without judging, right? So just being present, observe without judging. Now, why is all this important? I had to do all the groundwork so that when thoughts come up, feelings come up, emotions come up, people say whatever to me. I come from I'm based in God. I'm connected to my spiritual center. And what happens is that internally I have a conversation. No one knows this. It's almost like as if I'm speaking to the ego who's like a child. Thank you very much, but not right now. It really doesn't make any sense. So I have this internal dialogue. Everyone has it, right? It's just that I have learned how to, and it's a work in progress every single moment of every single day. I have to work on this to really know how to deal with my thoughts, feelings, and emotions through everything that I've learned over the years, so that I'm having a conversation with my ego, right? We'll say, yeah, the angel on one side, devil on the other side. The devil, quote unquote, the ego. Just
Mm.
having the angel is like the father or the mother, and the ego is like the child, just having a conversation and not blaming, not shaming or anything. It's like, no, I'm taking a different direction. I'm all about service. It also helps. I believe there's a lot to what I'm saying, right? But it also helps to have a purpose in life, right? For me, it's to serve God, to be service, to serve people, and that takes me out of bondage of myself, out of that ego, and so that it's not, so that I have a pointer, so to speak, so that I can be centered. So along with all the work that I've done, all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions are just like waves, right? They come in
Mm.
clouds, come and go. Clouds would be better. I don't have to accept the feeling, the emotion, or the wave. I just observe it and do the next right action. And that's how I deal with my ego.
Ah, man, that's such a great answer, and that's resonating with me a lot. I am like that's like Eckhart Tolle. I'm feeling
Yeah.
is coming up, the witness, that whole thing. I'm getting into. I've been very much into him. I'd say the last year and a half or so. And what you're saying is so resonating with me, Vince. It's like I'm say again the last 18 months I've been getting much more into yoga and meditation probably the last 6 months or so, and priming myself to be able to do that. The conscious breathing, big time. That's probably been the last year or so, and what a difference it makes when you're saying slowing down. And yeah, I can really see that you have a control over, like, you can pick your words carefully. You're giving yourself space to be able to respond and articulate what, what thoughts are coming up. And I think it's this wonderful advice for myself and the listeners as far as how you deal with it. I love the idea of like the angel devil, the devil is the ego, right? And to go, and there still is a relationship there, right? At one point I was resentful to my ego and I wanted to just wash my hands of it. But the fact is, the ego will always be there. It's just a matter of, do you want the ego driving the car or do you want the ego in the back seat? And then just say, shh, it's okay. Thanks for your idea, but I'll take it. Thanks. So, dude, honestly, that was amazing. That really hit me. Great answer there. So I'm really glad I brought that up. So thank you.
I'm a big fan of Eckhart Tolle as well, by the way.
Yeah, such great
He's
stuff.
he's really cool. Just some of the things he says are just dead on, right?
Dead on, dead on. And he's got such a relaxing voice. He reminds, like, I do his audiobooks, right? So he talks very
Yes.
relax, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, it reminds me, okay, yes, just, turn it down, slow it down a bit, right? So yeah, love it, man. So good, so good. So we've heard your personal story, your life experience, the reason why. We've heard what about Red Deer Dream Center is all about. You're doing this last push for $200,000. The big weekend coming up October 17th. Um, what else would you like to share today? I know that you're a published author. Is there anything else that you want to touch on as far as just conversation topics? I personally would love to talk a little bit about your creative
Yeah.
process as far as writing books. And then, of course, at the end, we can give you one last chance to just bring it all home with the Red Deer Dream Center as well.
Yeah.
Anything else that you'd like to talk about, Dr. Vince?
With regard to books, I did my doctorate specializing in economic geography, specializing in mergers and acquisitions and foreign direct investment, took business courses in geography, economic geography courses, and so forth. And I published a book on that. Absolutely no satisfaction, none. It's like, okay, I did it.
Right.
For me, it was always about serving others, but no one ever taught me how to write a book, this and that. And I did some, I was smart enough. I knew, well, I wouldn't say smart enough, but I was able to piecemeal about this based on certain best practices to what I so forth. Okay, for me. So what I started doing was I said, what 10 topics do you want to talk about for this one book? Achieve Your Greatness, or A Hero's Journey, Soulful Leadership. I said, well, I want to talk about wisdom. I want to talk about leadership. I want to talk about whatever. I picked these 10 topics. What I would do is I'd wake up at 5 in the morning and someone told me, and I can't remember where I heard this, Matt, where this is what I did. I literally, once I put my pen on a piece of paper, I did not remove it until I was done a couple of paragraphs or 3 paragraphs or whatever it was, right? So what happened was I ended up doing that for 365 days. Then I went back, I compiled everything back then. Now you could talk to something online and you could more or less, it writes the document for you online. But then what I did was I ended up typing everything and into then 10 specific categories, 10 different chapters, or nine specific chapters and a conclusion, say introduction and conclusion. And it was quite easy to do. Some people like to do the self-publishing route. Some people like to do the full-blown publishing route, working with Penguin Books or any other organization that publishes. It's in this case self-help books, motivational books. But it was simply creating a timeline for myself where, believe it or not, and I saw this, I think it was in your ebook, journaling was one of the things that you do, right? Along with yoga and meditation and so forth. Without even realizing it, I was journaling every single morning. And it didn't kick in until maybe halfway through the book that I was rewriting my story for the better. The ending wasn't going to be me getting run over by the train. It was more about, okay, how can I serve humanity? And I just, based on the lessons that I learned, I would put them in that book, in those various chapters and so forth. The one book that I believe that is, although all more impactful, the one I believe, especially if you're interested in leadership, is A Hero's Journey, Soulful Leadership, because what it does is it takes Christian principles, it takes Buddhist, Stoics, the Huna Way, which is, I believe, Polynesian, Buddhism and so forth, takes all these different philosophies, Taoism and religions and so forth. But no one knows this, right? People think, oh, you look at philosophies and religions, but they're all leadership lessons embedded in there. Because I work in
Okay.
the corporate world. So if you look at whatever it is, you can incorporate it as a manager, as a VP, as a CEO. That's the one where there's the spiritual element with the leadership blend, which is quite interesting. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't get into the financial side of things, so I'm not going into how to develop a strategic plan, start to finish, but it's more on the leadership side of things. If you're managing yourself and you're managing people, it's a book that I would highly recommend. Yeah.
That's the one. Have you done? Okay, perfect. I'm a sucker for the hero's journey in general, just the whole idea of hero's journey. So that one jumped off the page at me. I'm like, okay, I'll be looking that one up. Have you done the audiobook version? Have you done like the reading of it yourself, or is it paper book and
You know,
hardback at this point?
you just gave me an idea. Maybe that's the next step, right? I'm
There
going
we
to talk
go.
to you after the podcast.
Right?
I'm telling you, brother, it's going to happen.
I love it,
It's
man.
just, but the thing is, who's that one actor with a wonderful voice?
Matthew McConaughey?
There's Matthew McConaughey. He's an African American actor.
Oh, African American. Oh, like Morgan Freeman?
More, yeah,
Yeah, the best
that'd be
voice of all
him.
time. Yeah.
More, you have more of a, I have more of an Italian slash Sicilian
Yeah.
Canadian blend. It's a little Morgan Freeman's voice is
Oh,
just incredible, right?
it
Yeah.
is. It truly is one of the best of all time for sure. Yeah, I wonder how many. He can't be too expensive, I wouldn't think, eh? Just kidding. Yeah, get him to
No,
read your book, right? Yeah, that's awesome, man. With Vince, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It's great to get to meet you. I love what you guys are doing with Red Deer Dream Center. I loved hearing your, your life experience, your story, and the reason why, and just it's so important to get this out to everybody. So we'll be getting this podcast out to everybody in the area here, of course. And yeah, any closing remarks? Just Red Deer Dream Center coming up October 17th. I'll let you take it home.
no, thank you very much, Matt. Essentially, we're very, very close to opening. The opening date is October 17th. We need $200,000 to make this happen. And if you care to donate, please visit rddc.ca. That's rddc.ca. And yeah, please feel free to donate. If you have any questions whatsoever, you want to connect with me personally at the Dream Center, you can contact me at Vince, VINCE Aliberti, that's ALIBERTI at rddc.ca. That's Vince.Aliberti, ALIBERTI at rddc.ca. And all I have to say is that, God has put me in this position to do his will. And I look forward to serving Red Deer and the surrounding communities and humanity at large. Thank you very much for allowing me to be on this show.
Thanks, Dr. Vince. Really appreciate your time. Great things going on here. All the best to you and the Red Deer Dream Center, and we'll have everything that you had as far as contact information and show notes. And thank you very much. And we will definitely be keeping in touch. Thank you so much, Dr. Vince.
God bless.